40 episodes of the Kerrville podcast here. John, did you ever think we'd get 40 episodes in on the Kerrville podcast when we started this thing?
I didn't. It's been growing, and it's very exciting.
It is. It is extremely exciting, and it just gets better and better every week. Our guest today is Mr. Harold Danford, thedwiguy.com. And Mr. Danford, you have been an attorney for many years now.
Almost 30.
Almost 30 years.
Almost 30.
So how long of that have you been a defense attorney?
Probably 23 years, I guess. 24, something like that.
23 years as a defense attorney. I'm sure you've seen some stuff over the years.
You can't imagine the things I've seen. I can tell you some stories that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah. All right, John, you want to go ahead and kick this off?
Yes. Mr. Danford, I didn't know you are a former prosecutor.
Yeah. When I first got out of law school, I wanted to be an oil and gas lawyer, so I moved to West Texas, where I was from, worked at a law firm, and had to go to small towns. And when you went to the small towns, it would always happen that someone would come grab you and say, "Hey, the judge needs you upstairs." And I'd go upstairs like, "Well, what do you need me for?" They said, "We need you to defend this guy." And I'm like, "Well, I don't do that. I do oil and gas." And they go, "You don't have a choice. We don't have any lawyers. You're here. You're going to do it." So I started doing that, and I liked it a whole lot. So I said, well, I guess the best way to defend these people was probably learn how to be a prosecutor first and learn the insides out that way, know all the tricks that they use so you could be a better defense lawyer. So that's how I ended up in Kerrville, as I came here as a prosecutor.
Most defense lawyers only have been on the defense side?
It varies, but I'd say that's probably accurate. Yeah.
So you have a one-up on these guys because you've been in both worlds.
I've been in both worlds. I was a prosecutor here in Kerrville at the county attorney's office, where I prosecuted DWIs. And then I was director of the DWI program for the state of Texas, where I supervised the whole state on DWI prosecutions.
Wow. So you really know like the ins and outs on it. I mean, and to be able to defend something like that, you have to know how the other side works, I guess.
It's better if you do know how the other side works. And so, I think it's the best all around way to get to where you want to be. So.
That's awesome. So you were a prosecutor in Kerrville, and then when did you decide to become a defense attorney after you were a prosecutor?
Well, I was a prosecutor here for 3 years, and then I had the opportunity to go to work for the FBI or the Department of Public Safety. And so FBI wanted to send me to Quantico to school, and then I had to either go to New York or Puerto Rico, and DPS only had to go to Austin.
Okay.
So I chose DPS, and I went there and was, like I say, director of hearings for the DWI programs for the state of Texas for about 3 years. And then I decided, we loved Kerrville so much, we decided to come back here, and that's when I opened up my own office.
It really is a great town.
It is. A great place to raise a family.
It is a great place. It's kind of like a bubble here. And that's how I compare it to other parts of the world. I've been many places, and I've never seen a place that's like this area. Yeah. I mean, it is. I call it the bubble. Mm-hmm. It's like we have some kind of bubble that protects us from the outside world, in a sense.
That's a good way to look at it. A lot of things been happening here, though, lately.
Yes.
Yeah. It has been pretty rough here lately. John?
My next question, because I was thinking about Kerrville being a bubble, and, it's a small community, and how is it difficult? Is it difficult dealing with these cases and then going back out in public and seeing, who you were for, who you were against? And
well, as a defense lawyer, I think it's always difficult dealing with cases and living in the community where you live. Mm-hmm. Because I think to be a good defense lawyer, you got to really care. You got to care about the people you represent. And I see a lot of lawyers who don't do that. They just, go about the practice, but they don't really focus on, all the people that are in trouble with the law usually need someone to talk to. They need someone who'll listen. And I think a lot of lawyers don't listen to their clients. They come in, they get the money and do what they need to do. But I think the good ones listen. So, it's difficult because you get involved with the families. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, and there's usually something going on with all these people that, led them to the point where they're in trouble with the law.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you do You do listen, and you are there for your clients, because I was at one point one of your clients, and I wanted everybody to know this because I'm truly passionate about the subject, and I'm glad you're in here because, I'm coming up on 5 years, no beers, and when I was drinking and I did get a DWI, and I went into, the front office, and Mr. Danford wasn't, oh, hey, I'll see you at the case. I'll see you at the, the hearing or whatever. Come inside, man. We sat there, we talked. He first thing he asked me was, how are you? How are you doing? What's going on? And he was truly concerned about my well-being. And even afterwards, he would call me up, hey, how you doing? I wanted to see how you were. And, I won't get too much into the case, but I didn't expect that. And I think that's what truly separates you from the rest of the guys.
Well, when you're dealing with DWI cases, and you're dealing with someone, usually, if they've had multiple DWIs, there's probably an underlying, drinking problem or problems at home or something that led them to this situation. And so, we're attorneys, but we also have that attorney and counselor at law, and whatever really counselor at law means. But I think it means that you have to, get involved. I like, people, I like customers. I like making a living. But, I'm not in the business to have repeat customers. You know what I mean? I like, everybody makes a mistake. Let's, learn from that mistake and move on. And that's kind of what I try to, teach people that come through the door.
What do you do when you have your repeat customers, and how hard is it to be tough with them and say, look, you're going to mess your life up. You're on your second one, coming up on your third one.
That's one of the conversations that we always have right off the front is like, look, hey, you screwed up. And sometimes, maybe they didn't screw up. They were arrested, wrongfully or something. But most of the time, they're there because, law enforcement were doing their job. And so we try to take that person from the mistake that they made and say, look, everybody makes, especially younger clients, everybody makes a mistake. The most important thing is, we get you through this. We get you where it doesn't affect you for the rest of your life, but you learn from that. So you're not back here again. But when you get the people that keep coming back over and over again, there's some point, they're going to need your help, but there's at some point where, there's got to be an intervention or something's got to happen to break the cycle.
Are you allowed to talk about expungements?
Yes, we can talk about expungements.
That is the majority of the way you changed my life was an expungement. I had something haunting me everywhere I went, and now it's like it never happened. And I wanted to thank you for that.
All right. Well, let's explain what an expungement is so the listeners will know.
Okay.
An expungement is when you have a case that either was dismissed or you want a jury trial, and you got to meet certain requirements. But once you get arrested, that record stays on there. Even the case gets dismissed, it's going to stay on your record for the rest of your life, unless you get what's called an expungement. And an expungement is a legal process where you go by and you have that record removed. So when someone Googles or, every Tom, Dick, and Harry looks on the internet, it doesn't pop up.
Right.
And so an expungement is a process where you have that removed from your record. And like I say, if the case was dismissed or, and it was dismissed because you were wrongfully arrested or there was a lack of probable cause or you successfully completed a pretrial diversion program or you had a jury trial and won, then you're entitled to an expungement to have that record removed. And since we're on the topic of expungement, there's a great case that we handled here in Kerrville that changed the law in the state of Texas. It just was recently handed down by the Supreme Court of the state of Texas.
Now, is this the one that you argued in January?
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
And it changed the law dealing with misdemeanor expungements. You used to couldn't. Let's just say if you were arrested for 2 misdemeanors and one was a good case and one was a bad case and one got dismissed, but you got convicted on the other one, the law was you couldn't get the bad one expunged because you got probation or you pled out on the other one. And we got that law changed through that case that started here in Kerr County with a Shriner College student who was wrongfully arrested for 2 misdemeanors. And they said, well, since you got a deferred adjudication on this one and this one even though it was a wrongful arrest, you can't get an expungement on that because this one was good. And
that's just the charge, right?
Correct. But,
Yeah.
But we got
Not
the
a conviction.
Law.
Yeah.
But we got the law changed in the state of Texas. So that was a landmark case. Came right out of Kerrville, Texas.
Wow.
And you're not a stranger to landmark cases.
I've had a few. Yeah, I've had a few.
The Twisted Sisters.
Twisted Sisters, yes.
You were on the ID channel. You still are on the ID channel.
I still am on the ID channel. Yeah, that was a crazy case here in Kerrville where one sister stabbed another sister. It's all public record now. But yeah, it ended up on the ID channel on the Twisted Sisters series.
And that's a terrible situation too. That happened in, I believe, 2001.
Yeah, it was a terrible situation.
Yeah. My wife was actually in school across the street when that was the middle school. Yeah.
Happened right in front of the 720 Club.
Oh, I know where that is.
Just a block and a half from my office.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. So, and I never known that until just a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, look at this. We're watching this TV show, and the next thing I know, Harold Danford pops up on there. Yeah, it was really cool to see. What's his name? The Kerrville police officer, Paul Gonzalez, was on there too. And so I went up to him at the gala at the Hill Country Youth Event Center. And I'm like, hey, man, I just wanted to shake your hand. I saw you on TV.
Starstruck, huh?
Yeah. And then Irene Van Winkle was on there quite a few times talking about it too. And I love Irene. Yeah.
There was some really crazy stuff about that case that didn't really make the show. But the lady who was charged, she had some severe mental illnesses, I guess. And one of the things she claimed that she was a dimension walker. A dimension walker. And she said she had 7 different dimensions that she could be in. And even though she was in the Kerr County Jail, that was just one dimension of her. She could leave and that dimension would stay there, but she had 7 other dimensions that could go somewhere else. And I'll end this up real fast, but what's crazy is she would write, she thought she was a spiritual advisor to President Bush.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And to Clinton. And she would write them letters over and over and over again. And so the jail would call me and say, hey, can you come get these letters? Because we really don't want to be mailing them to the president,
Right.
And I said, sure, I'll come get them. So I would get them and I'd put them in my office. And those brown expandable
the
file folders?
Yeah.
Well, they make those in different colors, but there's like kind of a reddish, maroonish, blue, and, brown, green, whatever. So I had a blue one, which you don't see blue ones a whole lot. And I put the thing on my shelf. So one day the jail administrator called me and said, hey, you need to get out here. This lady's mad. And so I go out there and I say, what's wrong? She goes, you're not mailing my letters to the president. And I'm like, why not? I said, what makes you think that? She goes, because they're in that blue expandable folder in your office.
Whoa.
And I was like,
that is incredible.
Oh, yeah, it left me kind of shell-shocked. But at the end, though, she said when the case was completed, there was actually myself, Steve Pickell, and Clay Stedman worked on that case together. And at the end of the case, she said, Mr. Danford, you're going to be seated at the right hand of God. So I think I came out of that one.
Hey, there you go.
Right.
Hey, you got her endorsement, it sounds like. So that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe schizophrenia, maybe?
She had lots of things going on.
Yeah, she had some, some, based off of what I saw on the TV show, she had some stuff going on. And it's a sad thing, nobody likes to see somebody with mental illness or anything like that,
Right.
And it's just that whole case was just a terrible case all the way around. But it was cool to see Harold Danford on TV. I will say that,
Well, thanks.
And, we've had some really big cases happen in the country recently too. And, the Rittenhouse case. Yeah, that was really popular on on television.
I don't know if you'll watch that, but from my perspective as a lawyer and what I didn't watch 100% of it, but what I saw on TV, I think the jury got it 100% right.
Me too.
There were some videos that came out on that last year, and it actually has the timeline, and it's video. I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, and they weren't edited videos. It was full videos that actually showed what happened. And I mean, no bias here either way. But when you look at the proof, I mean, the only way that he would get a conviction of any kind on this would be out of emotional, an emotional decision by the jury. Have you ever seen an emotional decision by a jury?
I have. But, those jurors were under a lot of pressure. They had,
yes, they were.
They had people following them when they left every day. They had people in the courtroom who were trying to sway their, just by their presence, trying to sway their.
You had a prosecutor pointing guns at people?
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. The first rule is always treat a gun like it's loaded and never point to something you're not willing to destroy,
Well, going back to the case we were talking about just a second ago, and defense lawyers, prosecutors, we all, have little things that we do in the courtroom to try to get one over on the other side to try to make our case better or whatever. In the case with the twisted sister, she had stabbed her sister, right?
Yeah.
And so the prosecutor would sit the knife. The defendant was sitting right next to me, right next to the jury, and the prosecutor would always sit the knife right there between the defendant and the jury. And every time the prosecutor would sit the knife down, of course, the jurors would all move back about 3 feet. Well, he was,
like a psychological.
He was trying to judge, okay, we know what he's doing. Put the knife over there somewhere.
I mean, it is a sense of when you're in a courtroom and you're arguing a case and you have somebody arguing the other,
side of the case.
It does become kind of like a battle, I guess.
It's a chess game.
It's a chess game.
It's a chess game. Yeah.
Now, I'm not asking you personally, but in a court of law, when you get into that chess game, do emotions ever play a part in that? Do
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, does it turn into
sometimes
I guess a sense of competition?
Well, sometimes it does, and that's usually when it's not good. Some defense lawyers and some prosecutors, it's a win at all costs kind of deal. They take the thing personal, and the facts are the facts. Lawyers, they can be good. They can be good presenters. They can be good on the rules. They can be good on this. They can be good on that. But when you all boil it down to it, it's like good facts make good lawyers. Bad facts make bad lawyers.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, you can't stretch anything too far.
That's correct. But sometimes people, sometimes not only prosecutors and defense lawyers, they take it personal, and they do kind of get a little personal attacks on each other, which is not good. Not good for the client or the system.
When the average person watches a trial like this on TV, they see these prosecutors and defense attorneys, and they romanticize, like the trade and the actual, the job. And do you ever see when a big case like this happens and it's on TV, an influx of people trying to, go through schooling to become an attorney?
Sometimes I do see that, and it's crazy, and you probably won't believe this, but I think we need more lawyers.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I think we need more lawyers in the criminal defense field. Let's put it that way, because if you go to Mason, Menard, Brady, Junction, I go out in West Texas a lot, and there's not any.
Like public defenders or
there's not any lawyers. There's not any lawyers. I was in Ozona just on Tuesday of last week, and I was talking to the county attorney, the prosecutor there, and I'm like, "Do y'all have any defense lawyers in Ozona?" No, we don't have any lawyers. We got to try to get somebody to come from San Angelo.
Oh man, you talk about charge or costs going up because of that too, travel expenses.
Yeah.
And so I was in Big Spring, Texas, which is about the same size as Kerrville. And the judge was like, and that's my hometown. And the judge was asking me, he said, "Would you ever consider moving back here?" And I'm like, "Well, I really like Kerrville, so probably not." And he goes, "We don't have any lawyers. So if we want to appoint a lawyer or whatever, even if someone wants to hire one, they, on a criminal defense case, they got to go to Midland, Odessa, San Angelo, Lubbock, Abilene, somewhere."
So with that being said, you have to go through several years of school. Is it 8 years total?
It's 7. You have to have an undergraduate degree and then 3 years of law school.
Do you think that is too? Do you think that they should lower that at all?
Good question.
Do you think that is too much school, or do you think that?
Of course, when I was in law school, I would say it was too much school, but now I think it's not too much school. I think you need to learn everything you need to know before you get out there.
You ever see people come out and they're not ready?
Oh, good one.
Yes, and it's kind of, I think the best lawyers probably learned from someone else. So, but yeah, when you come out of law school, you're probably not ready. You're not ready to just dive into whatever. You need some experience behind you before you really get into it.
I would think it's such a hard profession because the stigma around attorneys and
what we refer to as bottom dwellers, or ambulance chasers, whatever, but
I've been called that too doing news, so I don't feel bad. Yeah.
All right.
Or vultures. I've been called a vulture before.
Bottom feeders,
But at the end of the day, from my point of view, when I did go into the court, it was a scary, scary thing, and you were there next to me.
Yeah, and one thing with being an attorney that's hard for, I think, from people on the other side is, when you go in and you pay somebody for a service, like if you pay somebody to build a house, you get a house. You pay.
Yeah.
With a lawyer, there's no physical product that you really see. It's
not tangible. Yeah.
It's not tangible. And so what they don't realize is you're paying, for what they know, who they know, their experience. There's a lot of, training, and what people don't realize, we're up at midnight, reading, trying to figure out, what we can do to make this better. And the everyday person doesn't realize, it's not just 8 to 5, we're 8 to midnight most of the time, trying to figure out who, what, where, when, and why. So we're one step ahead of the other side. So, but there's no, people don't understand, well, you haven't done anything on my case. Well, it's like, I haven't done anything that you can see.
Yeah. Right.
Versus, I didn't build you a big house over here that you can see, but you don't realize what all went in behind that to get to where we are today. So, but that's one thing we do, as I try to educate them on, okay, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to get there, and here's what it's going to take. So,
are there any, go ahead, Mike.
Have you ever had any, I'm going to ask you both sides of this question. Have you ever had any big win? I know you've had big wins in court. What was the feeling like when have you ever had a case that didn't feel like you were going to win it, and then you ended up winning the case, and what was that feeling like?
Well, I'll start this way. I have never tried a case that I thought the person was completely innocent, where a jury found him guilty. Okay? Now, I've tried some cases where I've thought the guy probably was guilty, but the state just didn't prove it and they were found innocent. But I've never had a case where I thought a guy was completely innocent, we had a jury trial, and he was found guilty.
Wow.
Okay? So I think the system works pretty good. Now, I tried one case. It was like last year or the year before, which was a really big murder case from out in West Texas. And the jury found the guy guilty, but it was a really close call. But I didn't really think that, personally, that the state had the evidence to prove him guilty. Now, whether he was guilty or not guilty is a different story, but I just didn't think this, and the jury found him guilty.
Does that?
What was that like personally?
Yeah, that's what
that wears on you. That wears on you. You go home at night and you think, well, did I do everything I could have?
I bet.
Or did I
start the replay tape? Yeah.
Or did I screw something up? Or maybe I should have done this different or that different. But, and those are tough, and those are few and far between. But that was a tough one. It was a really tough one.
You don't think about that. You don't think about what goes on behind the scenes, behind closed doors, after it's all done.
And a lot of people, this is your profession. This is your business, but this is also your life.
Yeah.
I mean, you've dedicated your life to this.
Yeah, it's pretty much a 24-hour around the clock deal. Yeah.
Anytime I hear the word Harold Danford, the only thing I think of is attorney. Yeah. I know there are many other aspects to your life.
There's a lot, but yeah.
But I always hear, I think attorney. You've put your whole life into this, just like any other career are out there. So, I'm sure you carry it with you, all the good and the bad.
Yeah. The good and the bad, yeah. The good and the bad. It wears on you.
So when you first started and you made your decision to go to school to do what you do, what did you have in mind, and what actually happened? What was the difference?
Well, from where I started to where I am now, it's a 180, I would say. Like I said, I grew up in West Texas, and and I was actually a golf professional before I was a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Really? I went to college on a golf scholarship, and I was working at a country club as a golf professional. And this lawyer came in every day, and he would say, "Man, you need to go to law school. You need to go to law school." But he never told me why I needed to go to law school. He just said, "You need to go to law school." A further thing from my mind. And so I figured, this golf thing wasn't going to be the best thing for the rest of my life. So I got a job at a law firm, just working as a clerk for about a year to see what it was all about. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So studied, got into law school. When I was in law school, I thought I wanted to be an oil and gas lawyer. Judge Barton, who's from Kerrville, was one of the professors at St. Mary's.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I met Judge Barton, and he had a trial advocacy class and some other things. And I told him, I said, "Judge, I don't want to be in the courtroom. I just want to be an oil and gas lawyer. I don't need all this courtroom training stuff that you're going through." He said, "Well, it comes in handy. You never know when it's going to, you need it." I'm like, okay. So did it. Went out to West Texas. Like I say, worked in an oil and gas law firm. Hated it. When I actually got there, hated it. And I was being appointed on these criminal cases. And like you say, do you know what to do when you get out of law school? Well, you were out of law school and you never had a criminal case before, and the judge appointing you on some complicated criminal case, and you're really going to have to hit the books and read everything you can to figure out who, what, where, when, and why. And I was like, hey, I kind of like this. And I said, the only way to learn this stuff is to be a prosecutor, and that's kind of how I got to where I am today. And I got to Kerrville because of Judge Barton. There was an opening at the prosecutor's office, and I called him, and I said, hey, do you know anybody there? And he goes, yeah, and I got an interview, and then that's how I ended up in Kerrville, and it's where I still am.
And what year was that?
1992.
1992.
Wow.
1992.
Do you ever see your profession taking a different direction? Are you happy where you're at?
No, I've been doing this for a long time, and I like it. And I think if you do something that you always hear that, find something that you like and you'll be good at it.
Yeah.
Well, I like doing this, so.
Well, you're great at it.
I like doing it, so I'm going to be here for a while. I don't plan on going. I ran for judge once, and then people were asking me to run for judge again when I guess the 198th District Judge Rex Emerson is going to retire, and there were some people coming saying, "Do you want to be judge? You want to be judge?" And I had to think about it a long time, and I said, I really like what I'm doing, so no, I don't want to run for judge.
Really?
Now you are the municipal
And
judge
the
in
municipal
Ingram.
court judge in Ingram, but that's a half a day, 1 day a month. So that
Oh,
doesn't
really?
take-
That's
that's not half a day, 1 day a month. So
Man. That's
I was thinking it was going to be like weekly or something. Like
it's 1
Tuesday
day,
nights or whatever.
It's 1 day a month, half a day. So it's
Okay.
It doesn't take up a whole lot of time.
Yeah,
It's interesting though.
I bet. Yeah,
It's interesting. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've learned a lot today.
I have too.
Really. We're honored to have you
Well,
on.
I'm honored to be here.
Anybody that wants to go into the profession of being an attorney, what advice would you have for them?
Go talk to someone who is an attorney. Okay. Ask them whatever you want to ask them. And I would talk to more than, there's different kinds of attorneys. There's civil lawyers, there's family lawyers, there's personal injury lawyers, there's criminal defense lawyers, there's corporate lawyers, there's, all kind of lawyers. I would just, whatever you think you're interested in, go talk to someone who does that and see if they'll let you tag along. I have students from Shiner College who come and volunteer at the office and usually end up getting paid because they do a good job, but just see what it's like, and then do your research and talk to people, and go to the courthouse and look around and see what's going on, and most lawyers, believe it or not, tell people, "Oh, you don't want to be a lawyer, go do something else." Well, they must not like what they're doing. But if you
That's a good point.
if you come to me and you say, "I want to be a lawyer," I'll tell you what's good about it. Okay.
And that's the Danford difference.
Man.
So.
Are you happy? Are you
Yes, sir. I'm happy. Yeah.
being a lawyer makes you happy?
It makes me happy. I like helping people. So yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So, I like it.
That's the question I need to start asking everybody: is are you happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there might be a kid listening to this. I want to be an attorney. I want to be a lawyer someday. And
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're at the 30-minute mark here on the podcast. Mr. Danford, anything else you want to talk about while you're here? While we have you on here?
No, I just, I think the Rittenhouse deal was good, and I don't know about Ahmaud Arbery. We'll hear any day now about that, and I think the jury will probably get it right there, and just hope everybody respects what the juries do, and no rioting.
It's not easy to be a juror, is it?
It's not. I've always wanted to be a juror. I've had jury duty a few times, but as lawyers, you always get, they're the first
you
ones
always get
they kick you out. But no, it's not an easy job. But Abraham Lincoln said it's the next second highest job as being American. The first one would be serving in the military. The second would be being on a jury.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Big shout out to everybody that has had to be a part of a jury.
And there was an article in the newspaper speaking on that topic. The judges wrote a letter to the editor today in the Kerrville Daily Times about here lately, only 20% of the people who have been asked to show up for jury service are showing up. Only 20%.
Really?
Our system doesn't work unless we all show up.
I thought that was a crime.
Like a $1,000 fine or whatever.
Well, they can fine you. The judge, they can actually issue a summons, have you brought up to court and fined. And that's probably what they're going to, I don't think the judges really want to do that, but
yeah. I
think that's probably what they're going to start. I'm just reading between the lines, but I think that's what they're going to start doing if people don't start showing up. Because the system doesn't, that's what our, founding fathers says, a letter to the editor. That's what our country was all about.
Mm-hmm. Jury of your peers,
Yeah, jury of your peers. And so, even though it's, you may have something better to do, it's, it's a civic duty that we should take to heart. So
I got called out one time, but I knew the guy, and they say, if you know him, you raise your hand. And I'm like, man, I wanted to.
So,
all right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for episode number 40. TheDWIGuy.com is Mr. Danford's website address, and you can always give him a call at 830-257-4045. I think I've said that a few times.
You got it memorized.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you have any other questions for Harold Danford, or you want any information from him, just let him know. Give him a call, 830-257-4045, or you can send him a message right through thedwiguy.com. Big shout out to Jam Broadcasting for letting us use the Mike FM studio every week for the Kerrville podcast, and you can get this on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, and now Spotify video
everywhere
as well. So we have one more podcast this year, and that's going to be the mayor of Kerrville, Mr. Bill Blackburn, next Tuesday. And then that's going to go ahead and do it for this season of podcasts, even though we're not starting the episode number over again next season, but it will be season 3 when we kick it back off next year.
Man.
So thank you so much, Mr. Danford. Really do appreciate you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for everything you do for the community.
Thanks.